I've been in poverty on just about every end of the earth. And whenever I'm in places like this, there's two observations I have. Number one, poverty looks and smells the same. Extreme poverty looks and smells the same about anywhere you go. You see people cobbling together whatever materials they can, and you have the smell of whatever they can find to burn, to boil water and make their food. I notice that every single time. The second thing I notice is I'm always the only one like me who's in these places. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean the only guy who's white. I mean I only meet people who are here who don't live here, who are here because of the call of Jesus. I only meet people who are engaging people's real lives here, who are doing so because they're following Jesus' commandment to go. Now, I don't want to crack on anybody's spirituality, anybody's religion. This is just an observation. But I'll just tell you, I've never seen a group from a synagogue in any place like this. I've never seen any Hindus. I've never seen any Muslims. I've never seen any pop American spirituality type. I never see them. It's always the church. It's always Jesus' people that are here alleviating suffering, engaging, because that's what Jesus tells us to do. And here's the thing, the greatest suffering in God's green earth is when someone's suffering spiritually because they don't have a relationship with Jesus, with His Son. That's why we're here. It's not just to alleviate the pain of poverty, though Jesus calls us to do that. It's so those things can be eliminated so people can focus on the spiritual need that we have. All of us have spiritual needs. Right here in our church, right here in South Africa. And part of the reason why we're as spiritually hungry as we are is we aren't being used to the degree that God wants to use us. We're not receiving the food that He wants us to have of being nourished by being about His work and going. So, hey, let's get going. King David one time, he had some personal sin in his life, and God unleashed a bunch of wrath on the nation of Israel because of their leaders' personal sin. And David felt bad about this, and he wanted to get rid of the wrath of God on his people. So he was praying that God would take care of it, and he wanted to offer up a sacrifice. And he comes to this guy's land, his name is Aruna, and he says, hey, I want to have an offering right here in your land to my God, a means of worship to my God. And Aruna said, no problem. You're the king of Israel, so I've got some oxen over here, and we'll just take the yoke and the sleds with which they pull stuff on. We'll chop that wood up, make the fire, and then I'll give you the oxen, and you can have your sacrifice, and I can feel good because I've served my king, and all's good all day long, right? And David said, no, not at all. He says in 2 Samuel chapter 24, verse 22 to 24, he says, I will not sacrifice anything to the Lord my God. I won't offer anything to the Lord my God that doesn't cost me something. This is what worship is. When we give something to God that costs us, when we sing to God, it costs us our vocal cords moving. It costs us our humility of singing in public. And that's why it's worshipful. It's a pleasing aroma to God because He sees His people saying, you're worthy of me getting rid of something of my own, my pride. And this is what giving is. Giving is a sacrifice. It's not just, this campaign is not just about how do we fund the things that God is asking us to do. There's definitely an element of that, but primarily it's a spiritual journey because we're forced to ask ourselves, am I going to give God something that's going to cost me something? Because if the project gets done, or if I can give a little bit of money here and there, but it doesn't really cost me, and guess what? It's not worship. It's not worship. God isn't pleased. We're trying to help us see that for us to grow spiritually, we need the purpose of God to be growing, which needs funding, and we need His purposes in our hearts growing, which means we've got to be getting to be sacrificial people, to tell Him, I'm in. I'm in with you, just like the greats of the faith were David. I'm in with you, and my commitment next week shows that I'm in.